Hey, weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Elena.
And this is Morbid.
This is just morbid.
It just is.
It is. It's just morbid.
Why'd you say that?
I don't know. I was trying to think of something else to say, and that's all that came out.
I was also trying to think of something to say in the intro, like, and this is, and then I was just like, morbid.
Just going with it. It's just morbid.
Oh, no.
I don't know. We're tired. It's a gloomy day here.
Yeah, I had a yucky tummy yesterday. It still feels yucky.
What's up with everyone's GI issues suddenly? Everyone's just we're living in a land of GI issues.
I mean, welcome to my actual life. But I was going strong on my IBS journey for a minute there. I was like living regular life and it was fine. Sorry, my phone just dinged. I turned it off, I swear. You would think 5 years into this I would have figured that out by now, but here we are. It's just like, oh my gosh, where's the ding? I don't know.
No, yeah, your journey was going pretty solid there.
I know. I think I got like a little tummy bug. I don't think it's my bus.
my
ibs.
Your ibis. Yeah, everybody's got weird. I was that TikToker, Beach Gem.
My girlie.
My girl. Our pediatric emergency room doctor who everybody should go follow because she's awesome.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
World renowned.
I'm just going to keep giving you TikTok recommendations.
You're good at it.
I find some good ones.
You
man.
absolutely do.
But she was saying that it's like GI bugs this year are like everywhere and also like weird. Like there's like a million different ones. It's not just straight up neurovirus now, which like
I don't
fuck
want
that shit.
Fuck, yeah, don't even say that. But
these things are like different. Like they're all like little branches off of neurovirus.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like I think the pandemic, like everyone's immune systems got a little fucked during that.
Yeah.
So I think we're just going to see some weird viruses for a little while, but hopefully it'll settle down.
Yeah, I was just like run down and run into the banyo.
To the banyo.
I was going, girl.
I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for your ass.
Now that you know all my GI business, my GI biz nasty, if you will.
Biz nasty. Do we have any biz nasty?
You do.
We do. Oh, there's a couple of things. We did a collab with Red Handed.
And it was so much fun.
They're so awesome and their accents are the best. Like, so soothing.
Yeah, guys, Hannah's name is not Hannah.
It's Hannah.
It's Hannah.
And I will fight anyone who calls her Hannah.
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 And it's so fun to say.
It is. Hannah.
And Saruti.
Oh, they're just really sweet and they're hilarious.
Two of the kindest girlies.
I would do collabs with them all day, every day.
Up the wazoo.
You know? But you just got one, so don't worry. We're not going to bombard you. But it was a lot of fun. We're glad we did it. Check it out because we did kind of like a handoff. So there's one on their feed, one on our feed, and they're really cool, like old-timey fun stories. But other than that, go buy your pre-order of the paperback version of The Butcher and the Wren because you know why? There is a sneak peek at the sequel.
And I read it and I said, oh my motherfucking gosh.
That's what she said.
I did. Direct quote, y'all.
So you can get a little sneaky peeky at the sequel so you can know what's going to be what you're in for.
Or if you're like me, you're currently reading along as she writes.
But yeah, go get your pre-orders. You can go pre-order them anywhere. They're on like, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, anywhere you want to check it out.
I don't think it is tinyurl.com/thebutcherandtherent anymore. So
it will be, I think, it'll be with the new book.
Oh, okay.
But
because I'm excited.
Don't worry, we'll give you another one of those.
Yeah, please give me that.
But yeah, go do that. It'll be great. And paperbacks are fun, and you can just throw them in your bag, or you can, bend them around if you need to.
I love doing that, and then the spine gets all crazy and
shit.
Yeah,
the spine gets all like cracks, like your spine does when you go to like a chiropractor.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. That's what it is. So go check that out.
Oh, I'm excited to see it.
Yay.
Yay, books and reading and literature and literacy.
And literacy.
I was going to say you're illiterate, but it sounded like you're illiterate.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, okay. You're like the most literate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some would argue that, but
fuck them.
We don't listen to those.
They're not true, so. Sorry, I really had to readjust my seat there.
You hear the squeaky squeakies?
Squeakies. So it's like secrets. What's that from?
That's from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the later years.
I can do it now too.
The later years.
Like
do you guys remember that? Don't worry, we're gonna get into the case. But
no, we're not.
Sometimes we take it old school and we just need to like talk at you for a little while.
Yeah, just like get into it, you know?
And it's funny because there still is very divided camps on whether they want to hear us speak about being human beings or not. And that's funny to me. But that
bite my tongue.
Does anyone remember the later years of Sabrina the Teenage Witch? I bet you wish you didn't. But
no, I thought they were good.
Song, the like later high school ones were good, and like maybe
college.
the beginning of college, but after that.
What do you mean?
I'll watch it. Like, hi, I'm here.
Like,
I'll watch it. It's not my favorite, those last couple ones. It's almost like the last season of Gilmore Girls.
Ugh.
Or the last couple of seasons of The Office.
Yeah, you lost me there.
Where you just, whoop, I'll watch it because I'm here. I'm here for this ride, but like, I'm not enjoying myself.
I know. I love Roxy, though, in the later years.
Yeah, she's a great one. I think it's when Sabrina starts working at a newspaper that it gets...
That gets boring.
Well, she starts dating a guy that I'm very confused by to this day.
Josh?
Nope, Josh I understood. It was this other random... I don't remember his name.
I don't remember either.
That's how much he matters.
Maybe I didn't see the last season.
Yeah, I think it's the one she's going to marry until...
Oh, no.
Harvey,
Okay, yeah.
Which, like, thank goodness,
with
Harvey.
the heart. Yeah. I love that.
But you know what? That was Sabrina for today. And now we're going to talk about something not as fun at all.
Nope. Not at all. But this is like a pretty well-known true crime case. And I know you guys like to hear like some more current ones, so I figured I'd hand this on over to you. This is the Amato family murders. It's a really sad case.
Eek.
And at the center of it is a man named Grant. Grant Tiernan Amato was born on May 20th, 1989 in Chuluota, Florida. And if you look at that, you would never think that it said Chuluota, but guess what I did? I went to pronouncenames.com and she told me how to say it. And I said, thank you.
I love that.
But anyway, Chuluota. He was the youngest son of Chad and Margaret, a pharmacist and an operations manager, respectively. I really love saying respectively after a sentence. I don't know about you. Respectively. Now, Margaret brought a son, Jason, to the marriage from her previous marriage. And actually, Chad would end up adopting Jason down the road, which I thought was really sweet.
Yeah.
But then the couple went on to have Cody, the middle son, and then finally Grant, the youngest son.
Okay.
Now, Margaret and Chad raised their family, like I said, in Chuluota, Florida. It's like a semi-small rural town in the Seminole County of Florida. It's about half hour outside of Orlando.
Okay.
Which, like, I'm going to be there soon, and I'm like, ooh, spooky. Not in Chuluota, that is in Orlando. But by all accounts, the family dynamic was a good one. Chad and Margaret both, like, were able to maintain stable, really well-paying jobs. They could provide a good life for their children, and they could also pursue their own passions and their own hobbies outside of work. And for Margaret, I just think this is so sweet. That hobby for her was her love of horses. Aww. And she particularly loved this one horse named Lady.
Lady. What a cute name for a horse.
Right? Lady was actually a former racehorse that Margaret adopted in like the late 2000s. And she'd been boarding Lady at the Miracle Lane stables not too far from their house.
Okay.
Now, according to people that knew Margaret, her relationship with Lady, who was like a rather stubborn horse, was really reflective of how she was so committed to the people that she loved, especially like her husband and her children.
Yeah.
She had an unwavering commitment to those people.
Cute.
Now, while their household was generally loving and supportive, Jason would later tell a jury that his father could be strict and had very high expectations for his children. And this was occasionally a source of tension, especially as the boys started entering their teenage years. Grant and Cody, though, they were inseparable while growing up. Like, they had a bond like no other. They were really close in age. There was just 2 years between them, and they had a ton in common. By the time they were in high school, they went to Timber Creek High, if you're from the area. They were doing almost everything together. They were both on the school's weightlifting team in high school, and even beyond high school, they still maintained like a super close relationship. After graduation, they both enrolled in nursing programs at the University of Central Florida. And once they finished those nursing programs, they wanted to continue their education. So they each decided to study anesthesiology.
Oh, wow.
Which, like,
Like, all right.
you know? And now, according to Grant, their long-term plan included buying matching BMWs and living in their parents' house together after Chad and Margaret moved to a smaller retirement home in Tennessee that they actually purchased a few years before their deaths.
So part of the plan was buying matching BMWs?
Yes.
Okay.
No comment.
Yep.
It's giving stepbrothers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's get matching BMWs and live in mom and dad's house when they move to Tennessee and we'll
It's
both
giving
be nurses.
Menendez brothers as well.
See, I actually don't know a lot about that case.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. We'll cover that one eventually.
Yeah, that's a U case for sure.
Yeah.
It's giving Menendez brothers in like one respect, not in both respects. One of these people is fantastic. The other, not so much.
Ah, yes.
Yes. Now, while their commitment for each other went both ways, Cody definitely was the more responsible of the two and usually got Grant out of a lot of shit and would like clean up his messes, solve his problems.
Yeah.
You know, because from the outside, Grant seemed like he was, successful and responsible and all that. But things really took a turn in the mid-2000s. I never know how to say that. 2010s.
2010s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. It's weird. It's not like the
2010s makes
70s.
sense.
The 2010s. Because that was when Grant was kicked out of his graduate nursing program and instead found a nursing job with Advent Health, a large hospital system in Central Florida.
Okay.
It's sort of unclear why he was kicked out of the anesthesiology program at the University of Central Florida, but that definitely is the event that marked the beginning of a very downward spiral that would eventually lead to murder.
Awesome.
So on June 21st, 2018, staff at Advent Health actually realized that 8 bottles of propofol, which is a powerful sedative that they usually give people before surgery. Sedative. Oh my God, idiot. Why can't Ash talk?
I could let that go.
No, you shouldn't have let that go.
Because it just sounded so cute.
Sedative. I'm reading.
Maybe that is one way to say it. Who knows?
I hope not.
You never know.
I like sedative better.
Yeah.
Sedative that they give people before surgery. They realized 8 bottles had gone missing from the locked cabinet where they usually kept it. Mm-hmm. Now, the empty bottles were found a short time later in 2 rooms that were being overseen by Grant. As far as anybody could tell, the medication hadn't been ordered, and security records showed that it was Grant who checked the medication out. So when he was confronted about this whole thing, he swore up and down, no, I wasn't stealing it to sell it, because they probably thought that that's what was happening there. But instead, he told them, quote, he administered the drug to patients who were not being adequately relaxed.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
Slightly understandable, but like you can't just like
But,
take that out for no reason and not
Yeah.
tell anyone. So the hospital had no proof of any wrongdoing, but they also believed that this was not the first time propofol in particular had gone missing under Grant's watch. So he was fired immediately.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Now, what made the entire ordeal worse was that during the confrontation over the missing medication, Grant made a ton of comments about relating to self-harm and suicidal ideation. Ooh. So they had to call the police, and he had to be taken into custody as like a protective measure.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, Advent Health administrators seemed to be intent on planning, or seemed to be intent on pressing charges for the theft of the medication. So now Grant was unemployed, and he was waiting to hear whether he was going to face charges for grand larceny. So he started spending a lot of time online. Because I guess that's what you do.
It's not great.
And he wasn't
that never leads to good things.
No, he wasn't on like ZipRecruiter.com looking for a job. Sponsor us. Because that was just a little drop there.
There you go.
But he was frequently visiting porn sites, and he really loved to use Twitch for watching lives and gaming. So he's just gaming and doing stuff in his room.
Yeah, you know.
He actually told his parents, though, not long after he was fired, that he really wanted to build a career for himself as a live streamer on Twitch.
Okay.
Which, I'm sure you could probably make good money doing that this point in time. But I think back then that was a relatively new platform, so that might have been a little worrisome to his parents.
I could see that. I'm sure like the YouTube thing in the beginning too, when somebody's like, when it first came out and people were like, I'm going to be a YouTube star. People were probably like, yeah. Like that's never going to happen.
But now
look.
It really can.
Now look.
So at the same time, though, because they were starting to get worried about Grant, because at the same time, Chad and Margaret had been noticing large amounts of money missing from their bank accounts, and multiple credit card charges from websites that they'd never heard of. So when they confronted Grant about this missing money, he actually spilled the beans. He admitted everything and said he had taken the money and he had used it to promote himself on Twitch.
Okay.
Which wasn't necessarily
That's
true.
not great.
No.
Either way, that's not great.
Well, don't steal money.
That's the thing. Like, you can't use people's money to do those things.
No, you got to use your own money.
Yeah.
Now, or you could ask for a loan because that's also an option.
There you go.
If you do want to use other people's money, you just ask first.
Precisely.
Now, what Chad and Margaret didn't know, but they were about to find out, was that Grant hadn't taken the money to help build his career. He really was spending it on private shows and conversations with a cam girl named Sylvie Venceslavova, hopefully.
Okay.
Now, Grant had been spending a lot of time on Sylvie's site in particular. And her site operated by, like, users would buy tokens that they could use to pay for performances. And her performances cost 90 tokens per minute.
Oh.
Which, like, that's some coin.
Damn, girl.
Now, tokens could also be used for tipping and, like, any kind of other transaction on the site. I don't really know how it works. But Grant was probably Sylvie's most generous customer, and he would purchase 5,000 tokens a night for $600. And he was spending about 4 hours every single night on this website.
Oh.
He was developing an addiction.
That's becoming a problem.
Yeah. And as his addiction to the website got worse and worse, he started sending Sylvie, quote, clothes and sex toys, which she would model for viewers. But he's not spending, like, he's spending his parents' money on these things to send to this girl.
That's the thing. It's like, this is not okay.
No, it's one thing if you're sending it, like, with your own money, like, have at it.
Yeah,
live
like,
your
do
life.
you, whatever you're
I don't care.
into, but, like,
You're taking your parents' money
you
for
can't
that?
take other people's money and do these things.
And also, like, you don't feel yucca about using your parents' money for this?
Yeah.
Like,
I would.
I would feel yucca
Yeah,
about
that's just
that.
me.
I don't know. I don't need.
That's just me.
Yeah, we don't have to go into it. But anyways,
I don't need
I was like, I'm about to go into it, and then I was like, you know what, never mind.
You know.
So over time, Grant's relationship with Sylvie came to include chat sessions. They were texting and, like, other communications, like the performances and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It did give the illusion of a personal relationship because that's the point. But in reality, Sylvie was just promoting herself and obviously encouraging Grant to spend more money because that's her job.
Of course.
Girls gotta eat.
Yeah.
On Grant's end of things, though, the constant contact and the emotional high was enough to convince him that he was deeply in love with Sylvie.
Oh, no.
And for that reason, he kept stealing money in order to keep in close contact with her.
Oh, this is really stressful.
It's really sad,
It's
too,
so
overall.
sad. That's the thing. It's, like, very stressful and sad.
Yeah. So the more money he had to spend, the closer he felt to her. Mm-hmm. Now, the illusion of a romantic connection between Grant and Sylvie was mostly fueled by the performances, the texts, the chats, like I was just saying. But it was also kind of fostered by this online community on the Camgirl site. Because Grant wasn't only chatting with Sylvie, but he actually made friends on this site. And he was catfishing all of these people, leading them to believe that he was this super successful gamer guy who drove a BMW and owned this beautiful house.
Oh, no.
When in reality, none of that was true. He did live in a beautiful house, but it was his parents' home.
Yeah, exactly.
In a letter he wrote to 5 or 6 friends about a month before his whole family was murdered, he vented about his family, calling them controlling and complaining that they, quote, did not understand how I could care for someone as much as I cared for Sylvie.
Oh, this really is sad.
It is. Now, by the fall of 2018, so remember, this started like in like the 2010s. Now it's 2018. This has been going a while. Grant had retreated even further into this fantasy world. He was stealing more money from his parents. Now he was stealing from his brother Cody to continue this relationship. And when he wasn't able to get hands on their cash, he would steal their belongings. Cody had some guns that Grant ended up stealing and selling for cash.
Oh, this is like very real addiction.
Oh, it's
like
super,
very
super
deep
real.
and very real addiction.
Super real.
Yeah.
And around the same time, he also managed to take out a $65,000 loan using his parents' house as collateral.
Holy shit.
Isn't that bonkers?
What? Like this is so intense.
It's so deep-rooted.
Oh my goodness.
So the family finally reached their breaking point in late November. At that point, Grant had stolen around $150,000 from his parents and $60,000 from Cody, his brother.
Holy shit.
So they sat down and confronted him. They were like, we need to figure this out. Like, this isn't okay.
And this is so unhinged that it's like, that must have been really scary to sit him down and be like, this can't happen. Because you're like, what is he going to do?
It's gotten to a point where clearly he'll do anything.
Something is, like he's got no boundaries here.
Yeah.
So I'd be scared.
Yeah. So when they confronted him, he admitted that no, he wasn't just promoting himself on Twitch. He really was stealing money to send to Sylvie, the Bulgarian model that he was in love with, he said. So the family tried to be supportive because they realized what this was. He was struggling with addiction. And with their support, he actually started to get serious about getting his life together and, like getting healthier.
Yeah.
So things really started to improve in early December. Advent Health actually dropped the charges against Grant for the stolen medication.
Wow.
So now he wasn't facing those charges anymore.
That's lucky for him.
Really lucky. And he and Cody had been planning this trip for a long time to go to Japan. They had planned it like before he lost his job. And Cody was like, let's still go. Like, let's still go on the trip. We'll figure it out.
Wow.
So they went on the trip together.
Wow. So he had like a very supportive unit around him.
Like
way more supportive than a lot of families would be.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
Like he had, these people had his back, and especially his brother.
And that's very rare.
But unfortunately, by the time they got back home, Grant seemed to be slipping into old habits. Just days after they got back from their trip to Japan, Grant and his dad got into another argument about the stolen money and the fact that Grant was saying he was going to get a new job, but not making any moves to do so. Because I think his dad was like, dude, like, you just got home from this trip that you probably shouldn't have even gone on in the first place. And now you're just like lounging around my house all day. Like,
yeah, it's time to get a job. It's time to start paying back the money you took.
Because he's like 30.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, get it together.
Get it together.
Yeah.
In the regard of like, look for a job.
Yeah, like be an adult.
Exactly. So Grant would later say of his father, quote, with him, it was every single day, hours a day. He'd come home from work and then he'd just talk to me about the same exact thing over and over and over and over again. Like, yeah, probably because they wanted you to better your life.
Yeah.
And as your father, he's concerned.
And when you're making no move to better your life, they're going to keep saying the same thing, hoping that sometime it clicks.
Right, because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over.
They feel like they're banging their heads against a wall.
They're all in the same boat there.
Yeah.
Now, a few days later, on December 19th, the tension caused yet another fight between Chad and Grant. And this time, Grant stormed out of the house and didn't say where he was going. Now, in the weeks leading up to this latest fight, the family had actually started going to family therapy together.
Oh, wow.
And Grant was said to express during these meetings, quote, strong feelings of worthlessness. And at one point, he, quote, broke down emotionally and admitted to being severely depressed.
Okay.
And he hadn't said anything about wanting to harm himself, but because he was clearly in this like heightened emotional state when he left the house after the fight with his dad, Cody and Margaret were really worried.
I see that.
Especially when he still didn't come home the next day. They were like, I don't know, like,
yeah,
I just have
would
a
have
weird
been worried.
feeling about this.
Yeah.
They were like, he's in a low place. He left in the middle of a fight. Like, we're very worried.
And he's been very unpredictable. He's very much not himself.
Very
like,
erratic. Exactly.
A lot of like very, he's being very impulsive.
Yeah.
Like for a while now. So it's like, I would be worried.
And we love him, like that's the brother and
They're
the son.
a supportive family, it sounds like.
They are. So they decided the best course of action would be to file a missing persons report just to find out where he was. According to the missing person report, Cody and Margaret told officers that Grant had been in contact via text since they reported him missing, and that he told them he was, quote, really tired of dealing with everything and he is just going to handle it his own way, which worried them even more.
Yeah.
Because given the stress that he'd been under and the fact that he had easy access to firearms, in the family home, Cody and Margaret were at this point, quote, 100% convinced that Grant would try to harm himself.
Oh, no.
So the day after the missing persons report was filed, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office got a call from an officer in Apopka, I believe is how you say it, Florida, saying that Grant actually had been located, luckily. And when officers responded to the call about a suspicious car, they found that it was registered to Grant Amato. So that's how they found him. When they spoke to them, he said he came to Apopka to visit family and then told them that he needed a break from his mom and he had no intentions of hurting himself. He was like, you have nothing to worry about. I just needed to get out of here for a while.
Yeah.
So the interviewing officer asked the standard questions about safety and self-harm and was able to determine that Grant didn't need any kind of psych eval, like he was all right. And it turned out, though, that after the fight with his father, Grant had gone to his Aunt Donna's home. And she would later tell police he showed up, quote, skinny and lost looking, and that he slept all day since he arrived, and she was worried about him. Now, while she originally thought that he probably had come to her in a time of need, he was really just scamming her.
Yeah, I could have seen that.
A few days after Grant had shown up at the door, Donna noticed strange and unfamiliar charges to her credit card in large, large sums of money.
And this poor lady is just trying to,
take her nephew in.
A good family member.
And she's an aunt by marriage, too.
Oh, so she didn't even, she had no, her obligations were pretty small here. And she really took, damn, this guy sucks.
He really does.
I'm like, this is so mean.
It is.
To do to people who care about you.
To fuck over your family like this.
Yeah, it's just this lady is taking you into her home. That's really shitty.
Exactly. Now, knowing that the situation was getting touchier and touchier by the day, Donna decided that it would be better to speak with Cody, Grant's brother, than confront Grant head on.
Smart.
So she called Cody and told him everything that had happened, and he was so apologetic, so embarrassed, and also begged his aunt not to press charges and actually told her he would pay back his aunt whatever Grant had charged.
Are you kidding me?
He was like, if you don't press charges, I will pay this back to you. Please, we're trying to get him straight. We're trying to make this work.
It's a precarious time.
It's a very precarious time. Chad also begged his sister-in-law not to press charges, and he actually broke down crying over the entire situation.
Oh, that kills me.
And it was, quote, the first time Donna said she had heard him cry in the 27 years she knew him.
Oh my God, that breaks my heart.
Just so stressed.
Yeah.
And he explained to her the full extent of Grant's problems, and he confided in Donna that he and Margaret actually had to remortgage their home
my God.
in order to cover the $150,000 that had been stolen from them.
I can't imagine what this poor family was going through.
It must have just been hell. And it was years of this.
Yeah.
Just years.
Hell. And ups and downs,
Yeah, exactly. And it was just when they thought he was getting better, he goes and fucks over. It's one, and I'm sure it's one thing for him to fuck them over. You're angry about that, but then you're like, oh my God, you're my child and you're capable of doing this to
you're taking it into the extended family. Exactly.
And the embarrassment and the shame and the shock.
That's awful.
I can't imagine. Now, according to Donna, Chad told her, yeah, I'm going to have to work a few more years than I thought I'd have to, but it's okay. I'll do it for Grant. I don't want him to go to jail.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
Mm-hmm. It was clear that the stress was taking a considerable toll on everybody, but especially Chad. At that point, he had to take on a second job just to cover Grant's debts so that his son wouldn't go to jail.
That breaks my heart. And I'm looking at pictures of this family and I'm just like, oh.
Right? And that's love. The love that he had for his son.
That's the thing. It's that's straight up just loving your kid unconditionally, just wanting to. And I know they're probably shielding a lot. And it's but you just want to. You want to shield them from any harm. Even if they're the ones doing harm, you want to shield them.
I mean, we've even seen it in our own family with certain people. And I've seen it in other people's families. It's family.
So sad.
And he was the youngest too. So I feel that plays such a role. It's actually your baby.
That's definitely part of it.
And that's the thing, as far as everybody could tell, the Amato family was going to incredible lengths, and some people's opinions maybe even too far,
of course,
to shield Grant from the consequences of his actions. But at the same time, they were also trying to create and enforce boundaries. But as we know, it's impossible in a situation like this.
There's no way of knowing how to deal with this kind of situation.
No.
Because there's no right or wrong way.
There's no handbook on it.
And everybody reacts different in these kind of situations. He's so incredibly addicted to this that it's it could be any reaction under the sun that could happen. And there's no way to predict it.
Exactly.
You might come at him nicely and that might piss him off.
Right.
You might come at him aggressively and that's the thing that calms him down. You have no idea.
It's just raising kids, how you have to treat each kid so differently.
You have to tailor how you react to each one.
Mm-hmm, exactly. But so that they were going to these incredible lengths to create all these boundaries, but stealing from the extended family from Donna and Troy Amato was the last straw for Margaret and Chad.
Yeah.
And on excuse me. No, don't excuse me. I was saying the right thing.
But excuse her anyways.
Just excuse me.
Excuse me.
I don't know why that was funny. But on December 22nd, the entire family surprised Grant with an intervention in Donna's driveway. Among other things, they insisted that he take responsibility for the mistakes that he'd made, and they demanded him. They were like, it's come to the point where you need to check yourself into rehab.
Yeah.
Like, we've got to figure this out.
Absolutely.
So he ultimately agreed to checking himself into a clinic in South Florida, and he was going to be addressing his addiction to sex and pornography.
Okay.
So Grant returned home from rehab on January 5th, 2019, after less than 2 weeks of treatment. And in addition to the more than $200,000 at this point that he'd stolen from his parents and brother, he racked up several more debts that he had no means of paying. On top of the $10,000 he paid so that the two could take the trip to Japan, Cody agreed to cover $8,000 in accrued attorney's fees and the $15,000 bill for the stay at the South Florida rehab. His brother sat there and took all of that on for him.
And when I keep looking at the pictures and I'm like, he does have Cody has such a kind face.
Oh, and he was a nurse. Like,
and
he
that's
was
the thing. Like, he's just like
a good person. Absolutely a good person.
That like rips my heart out. Everything that he was willing to do to keep his brother, who didn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, ugh.
So similarly, Chad, the father, had allowed the fraudulent $65,000 on the house to go through uncontested.
Oh, come on.
Quote, so it wouldn't be reported. Because they figured this would give Grant a clean slate to start over. But there was going to be changes in expectations if that was going to be the case.
But at the same time, it's like, maybe if you would let some of this go through and he had gotten in real trouble, like maybe sometimes that's what people need. I'm not saying it would have stopped anything. I'm just saying sometimes you got to let some tough love slip through there, especially to a 30-year-old. It's like,
absolutely.
I think he needed that, but it's easy to say that from over here. If that's your own kid, no fucking way.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But like looking at it from the outside, you're like, just let him get in trouble.
Oh, I mean,
but like
I've seen it in families where the person doing this or the person, struggling with addiction is like 50, 60.
Yeah, exactly.
And their parents will still do anything.
Oh, yeah.
That's no matter what.
And
that's their baby.
So many families have this happening in various forms, in various degrees.
Yep.
Like,
I feel like more families do have this going on than do not. And that's so
true.
sad.
Yeah.
It's
it really
so
is.
sad.
Ugh. And you never think that as a parent that you're going to be, 70 or like moving into retirement age.
Right.
And this is what you're going to be dealing with.
Because that's the thing.
No
like,
way to prepare.
Like I had said, like they were preparing to retire in Tennessee. They bought a home that they wanted to retire in. Like,
and it's like
then they had to take on a second job.
You're supposed to have done the hardest part of your job, raise them.
Exactly.
But
this is where it got even
hurts
harder.
My heart.
So Grant comes home from rehab early, like did not get the treatment that he should have. And the family decides that they're going to have dinner at a California Pizza Kitchen, which like great fucking decision. I love California Pizza Kitchen.
I do too, actually. I haven't had that in a long time.
Me either. Me and Drew used to go on dates there all the time when I worked in Boston because there was one like right there.
Yep.
Fucking good.
Wow.
But this one probably wasn't that great. So the evening after he returned home, they head over to California Pizza Kitchen, probably thinking like a public place will be a better place to have this discussion. And Chad laid out a series of rules and expectations that he had written up for his son. It was like two pages on a yellow legal pad.
Okay.
Among other things, Grant was expected to get a job during the day. How terrible.
I was just going to say already. Fuck it.
Right? Discontinue his use of the internet past midnight. Which, like, you're in my fucking house.
Well, and you have proven that you can't be trusted with it, right. So we do have to give you a boundary.
And it's for your own good.
That's the thing.
He needed to begin paying for his own cell phone bill.
This is such basic shit.
He needed to develop a plan to pay back the money he's stolen from his family members.
Very rational.
Go to regular therapy. Apologize and make right with the people he'd stolen from.
All great so
and
far.
Most importantly, he needed to sever his relationship, quote unquote, with Sylvie immediately.
It's like all of that. You can see them negotiating.
Right.
That last one, I'm sure, was the the non-negotiable one.
Totally.
Yeah.
So the document, it also highlighted the reasons for the new set of rules. It stated that, quote, Grant, through his past transgressions, has relied on knowledge the family would not report him and cover him.
Yeah.
And it
absolutely.
accused him of, quote, family relationship abuse beyond tolerance.
That's 100% how to describe it, too. Family relationship abuse.
Beyond
because
tolerance.
Because it is knowing that they will not do anything and using that to your own advantage.
Absolutely. And it hinted at the hurt that he'd caused the family around him. Chad's document pointed out, quote, you chose a stranger, physically non-existent, over your entire family.
That's the part. That's like, in the way that's said is really hits you hard because it's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's
like
a girl
there's really
on a website.
no other way to describe that.
But it's so fucked because, like, to us, we're sitting here, we're like, it's a girl on a website.
But to him.
But his mind was in such an altered state because of the addiction that he formed, you know?
Yeah. That's why it must be so wild, like, for them to be sitting there. It's probably so frustrating for them because it's very clear and logical, that statement.
Right. But to him, Sylvie was his girlfriend.
Yeah,
in his
like
mind.
as far as he's concerned, you're severing the most important relationship in his life.
Exactly.
Which it's like that's why therapists and psychiatrists and mental health facilities exist, because they know how to deal with that kind of thinking.
Right.
Like normal people are not supposed to, like everyday people, I mean, like your family,
right,
are not supposed to know how to deal with, like, I don't know how to deal with that way of thinking.
And that's why I think, honestly, that's why they were going to family therapy together.
Exactly.
Like they were even making the effort to try to understand.
Exactly. And that's what like therapy is for. It's like you really, but he needed some intensive therapy.
I feel like this family is like the poster children of like what you should do.
I know, because it seems like they were doing everything they could. Like they were trying to keep him out of trouble so that they could handle it as a family.
They were going to therapy. They sent him to rehab. They paid for the rehab.
They laid out what he needed to do and then laid out why he needed to do it when they had no need to do that.
No.
It was pretty clear why he needed to do all those things, but they took the extra step to be like, this is why we are asking this of you. That's huge.
And I feel like, and that even shows like all the work that they did with behavioral specialists.
Because I was going to say, that does seem like very much a tool that you would get through like, you know, therapy or treatment.
Exactly.
It's like you need to explain why you are requiring these things of this person.
It's like a small child. Like
a form of respect. I'm asking you to do this. You should know why.
Right.
You know?
And it's like kids. It's like when you're teaching them, like, you can't do this because this will happen.
Because this is the reason. I'm not just asking you to do this.
Right.
You know?
But it was made clear to Grant during the meeting that if he broke any of the rules or any of those expectations, he would be kicked out of the house immediately. Like this was the final.
Yeah, we've reached the end game here.
Exactly. So he agreed to the terms during the meeting, but it's pretty unlikely that he ever had any intention of following through with that promise to change his behavior. In a letter sent to his friends from the Cam Girl website, he referred to his father as controlling and abusive and claimed that his mother was, quote, simply around for security.
Oh, God.
Which I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
That's
like
ridiculous.
And the letter also hinted at desperation and discouragement that he felt over the ultimatum. He told his friends, I hate myself for what I did, and I hate the thought of never getting to be with her again, meaning Sylvie. After everything that I gave and everything that I tried to do with her, I just can't comprehend being without her. Seeing her be able to be so happy without me in her life is something I hope you guys never have to live through.
Wow, this is so deep.
It really is.
Oof.
So it's unknown whether the letter raised any red flags in Grant's online porn community, but if it did, nobody took the alarming tone or the obvious desperation seriously enough to contact
Which
anybody.
happens a lot.
Of course, yeah. That's why online is just not safe.
No, it's really not.
But at the same time, nobody ever could have expected that his frustration
of course not.
would manifest into what it did a very short time later. Just after 9 o'clock on the morning of January 25th, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office got a call from Craig Sisko, an administrator actually at Advent Health. He was one of the multiple employees who were really concerned after Cody had failed to show up for work that morning. Because remember, they worked together before Grant got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Cody also wasn't responding to any of the calls placed to him by coworkers. It was entirely unlike him.
Oh, no.
And according to Sisko, Cody, quote, had never missed a day of work.
Oh, no.
Now, because it was so out of character, his coworkers were requesting a well-being check. So the deputies arrived at the Amato house on Sultan Circle just shortly after taking the call, and they found Cody's car parked in the driveway, as well as Chad and Margaret's cars parked in the garage. They continuously knocked on the door, but nobody was coming to answer. So when their knocks on the door failed to get anybody's attention, officers called the cell phones of the 3 people inside, believed to be home, and actually even blasted air horns in an attempt to get their attention.
Yeah.
But nothing. So as far as they could tell, the windows and the doors were locked. So one deputy ended up having to use a knife to disengage the deadbolt on the back door, and the officers went into the home to conduct the wellness check. Now,
when you can't get in like that, I wonder what those like investigators were thinking, because when you can't get in like that, you have to be like, we're coming into something good.
Exactly.
You know?
And they were not. As soon as they walked in the house, deputies immediately discovered the body of Chad Amato. This is really brutal, just so you guys know. The discovery of these bodies is rough.
Okay.
He was lying on his back in the kitchen. It was clear that there was no signs of life. He'd been shot twice in the head, and it was lying in a large pool of his own blood. There was actually a holster around his waist when he was discovered with a handgun tucked inside, but it didn't look like he tried to retrieve it before he was shot.
Oh, man.
So they moved throughout the house, and they found Cody's body next. This is horrible. He was curled into a fetal position in the storage room off of the garage, and he had been shot in the face and was covered in blood. He was still wearing his nursing scrubs, indicating that he just got back from work.
Oh, my God.
And like his father, a handgun was discovered on the floor just a few feet from his body.
Ugh.
Then the officers found Margaret last. She was lying face down at her computer in the family's office. She had been shot in the back of the head, and there was blood covering her entire face. So to the responding officers, the house seemed neat and orderly other than what they had just found. There were a lot of valuable items easily visible throughout the house, but nothing seemed to be missing. So they were pretty much able to rule robbery out right off the bat. And investigators obviously suspected that the motivation was execution, because the evidence at the scene pretty much showed that.
Yeah.
So crime scene technicians noted that Cody had barely made it into the garage when he'd been shot, meaning that the killer did not hesitate to pull the trigger as soon as he got the opportunity to. And evidence—
That's chilling.
It's so chilling. Evidence collected from the kitchen seemed to indicate that Chad had been shot while standing, but the second shot was delivered, quote, execution style, while he was on the kitchen floor near the center island. And Margaret had been taken out similarly because she was also shot in the back of the head, execution style. So the picture to investigators was becoming clear. Whoever killed this family had come to the house with that exact purpose and no other purpose whatsoever. So the deputies had been dispatched to the home actually less than a month earlier, so they knew that there was another occupant of this house.
Oh, no.
But when they arrived, that person wasn't home, Grant, and neither was his car. So a BOLO alert, be on the lookout, was immediately issued for Grant, even though at the time it was unclear whether he was a suspect, a victim, or neither. And investigators also started pulling toll records for his toll transponder, which showed him driving eastbound in the morning, then westbound in the afternoon. But other than that, they were unable to locate him.
So you know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So his absence in the house became even more suspicious when the investigators spoke to Cody's girlfriend, Sloan. She told them all about the issues that had been going on between Grant and the rest of the family. And according to Sloan, Cody had become concerned about Grant's unstable behavior in the weeks leading up to the murders.
Okay.
She said he, quote, was afraid that Grant would kill everyone. Like he was literally worried about it.
That was even a thought.
I think because he was getting more and more unhinged as like the days and weeks went on.
Wow. Can you imagine having that be an actual fear of yours?
Absolutely
about
not.
your own flesh and blood, like being like, I am legitimately scared that they are going to kill everyone in this family.
I can't even imagine.
Like, ooh,
I can't even imagine.
It must have gotten to such a point.
And she also told the officers that she had been at work with Cody on January 24th, the day before the family was discovered. He got a call from his father a little after 9, And Chad said to Cody, like, you need to come home, like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And when Sloan asked Cody what was going on, all he said was stupid fucking bullshit. And then he left work.
Because he's probably so sick of it.
So, absolutely.
You know, like, it was probably just, like, daily.
Oh, it had to,
you know,
have
so
been.
he's probably like, Jesus.
And when you're not the one creating all the issues and
But
you're
you get
like
yanked into it every time.
Exactly.
Ugh.
I can't imagine. He must have just been so
Exhausting.
frustrated. But a half hour after that, she texted Cody to check in, and she was like, hey, like, is everything okay? And he said, all okay. You didn't need to worry. Which, like, so sad.
Ugh.
And that was the last time they spoke. So when he didn't show up for work the next morning, that was when she and Chris Sisko got concerned and requested the well-being check.
Oh, man.
So while a team of officers interviewed friends and associates of the Amatos, Detective James Galina and Lilium Agrinsoni, I believe, spoke with Jason Amato and let him know, and that's the oldest brother, let him know that, quote, 3 unidentified bodies had been discovered in his home.
Okay.
Or in the Amato home. He didn't live there. So Jason explained to the investigators that while he was Cody's emergency contact on most forms, he really didn't speak much with their family or engage with them very much. He said the only person that he talked to regularly was his mother, and they spoke every week.
Okay.
He confirmed what Sloan had told police about Grant's theft and destructive behavior. He knew all about that. And when they asked whether he could think of anybody who might want to harm the family, Jason told them about Grant's relationship with Sylvie. And he mentioned, you know, Grant gets mail from her sometimes, so she has our address, like, or she has their address.
Yeah.
So that became like, like another layer to this
yeah.
story. Like, oh, is it her? Like, are they together? Like,
yeah, they have to think of all these things.
So the next morning, Grant's car was located by the Orange County Sheriff's deputies in the parking lot of a DoubleTree Hotel in Orlando. Mm-hmm. According to hotel staff, he had checked in the day before, which was January 25th. He checked in just after 2:30 in the afternoon, and he only registered himself for one day. He was scheduled to check out the next afternoon. So quick.
Yeah.
Now, as officers were speaking with the front desk staff, he actually came out of his room and was confronted by the deputies.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
So he eventually agreed to return to the sheriff's office for a formal interview.
Wow.
Bonkers. I mean, they would have got him anyway, but the fact that he just came out of his room, crazy.
Yeah.
During their interview, he confirmed that he had met Sylvie 6 months earlier. And since then, he'd been talking to her regularly and sending her tons and tons of money. He told detectives that he initially agreed to the ultimatum that he got from his dad when he had gotten back from rehab, but then he felt that the rules were very unfair, quote, because he believed Sylvie was his girlfriend and they had a relationship. It's like...
very unfair. Yeah.
You know what I think is unfair? The fact that your parents had to remortgage their home because you stole that much money from them.
I'd say that's pretty unfair.
I would say so. Now, according to Grant, his dad found out that he was still speaking with Sylvie, and on the evening of the 24th, they got into an explosive fight over the relationship. Grant said his dad grabbed him by the shirt and demanded that he get out of the house. So he was able to scoop up some of his belongings, and then he said he got out of there. He said he was driving down the street, and he met Cody, and Cody told him, like, oh, I'll go straighten things out with mom and dad and, like, come back later. Like, I'll figure it out for you. But he said that was the last time he saw or spoke to any of his family members. Wow. So the detectives were like, okay, yeah, like, cool. Like, one problem with your story, though, Cody was working that night, so you didn't run into each other.
Oof.
Yeah.
Didn't think of that, did you?
Like, you didn't run into each other by chance on the side of the road like you claimed.
No.
So Grant was like, oh, sorry, I was lying.
Oh, yeah, oops.
But I'm gonna
thank you for reminding me that I was lying.
I'm gonna tell you the truth now. Like, I'm
of course
sorry
you are.
about that. I actually didn't leave home right away. I waited for Cody to get back home. You know, like, my dad just let that happen after we got in this explosive fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then he got home and I told him everything. And that's when he said he would talk to our parents. And I left. And no, of course I haven't been back yet.
No.
And he said...
he's like, I got that wrong. Sorry.
My bad. Sorry.
Yeah,
it was like, he was at home. It was the side of the road.
Yeah,
they looked
totally.
the same. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He told them it was around midnight that he left and that he spent the night in his car in the parking lot of a Publix grocery store. So he then told them that he had every intention to return home the next morning, and he actually started heading that way, and he got to his neighborhood. But at the last second, he changed his mind and he decided, you know what? I'm not ready to go back home yet. No. But he did get to the neighborhood. So the detectives were like, oh, like, did you see anything unordinary or like out of the ordinary? Like the morning? Because that could have been when it happened. Like, did you see anything crazy?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, nothing sus at all. But of course, the detectives knew that
Wild.
Had he actually returned to the neighborhood that morning, he would have seen several police cruisers and news vans parked outside of the house, which would certainly qualify as out of the ordinary or at the very least memorable to me.
I was just going to say, I think that would be something that I would mention. Like, hey, there was this crazy thing.
Yeah.
That I saw.
So they pushed back with that. They were like, that's weird that you didn't see all the news vans and like the police presence. That's wild that you didn't see that.
Crazy.
And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just keep lying. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth again, though. Sorry about that. I did see those cop cars and the news vans, and that's why I left.
Oh, okay. He's like, thank you for reminding me of that as well.
I totally forgot that I saw those, but I did.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
I did.
So the detectives were like, you saw all that? Like, most innocent people stumbling upon a scene like that on their front lawn would want to make sure everyone in their house was safe and unhurt. Like, you didn't?
Yeah.
And Grant was just like, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
He's like, you know what? I don't have an answer for that.
He just told them once he left the area, he went to a local fast food restaurant to use their Wi-Fi. And when he did, he checked a local news site, and that's how he learned there was a shooting in his neighborhood.
Wow.
A shooting.
Okay.
And when asked again why he didn't feel compelled to check on the family, he told the officers, I just didn't want to know.
Wow.
Like, you're something.
You are the worst liar I have ever heard in my entire life.
Truly.
Yeah.
So he was interviewed like this for hours and hours and hours by the Seminole County Sheriff's detectives. And throughout most of their interview, I just got really
I was just going to say,
that?
damn, you got real bossed.
That was wild.
Yeah.
All Grant did was make himself look more suspicious. And after more than 3 hours of the conversation, Grant still hadn't asked detectives what had happened to his family.
Are you kidding me?
3 hours. And they're like,
do you
news
have
vans,
any curiosity?
heavy police presence,
No.
shooting. Like, you want to know what happened?
No.
And he still didn't seem too alarmed by the situation at all.
Wow, okay.
So Detective Multari was getting more and more convinced that this is their guy, clearly.
Yeah.
And he was really hoping to get a confession, though, because, of course, that's what you need.
Yeah.
So she placed multiple crime scene photos of Cody's body in front of Grant and directly asked, quote, did you leave the house with your brother Cody looking like that?
Holy shit.
And Grant covered his face but gave no response. So Multari then produced crime scenes of Chad and Margaret and said, or did you leave the house with your father looking like that? Or your mother? Is that how you left your family?
Damn.
And Grant glanced at the photos before covering his face again, saying, no, I didn't do any of this.
Wow.
Like, looked back at them and was like, no. Oof. Initially, he suggested it could have been a murder-suicide, and he tried to blame Cody.
Are you kidding me?
The person that was there for him through everything.
Oh, that pisses me off.
Through wrestling, through
some
nursing
type of
school,
way.
through
Holy
work,
shit.
through their trip to Japan, through the fucking craziness with Aunt Donna there, through rehab, through all of it.
The best brother you could literally ever ask for. Or even dream up, to be quite honest.
Must have been Cody, and then he must have just turned the gun on himself.
Oh my God. What an actual piece of human fucking shit.
Like, that's where I'm like, fuck
yeah,
you.
like this, like obviously you're a fucking murderer. Like, go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
But it's like, and you had to twist it at the end there?
You really had to do that?
And it's like, dude, Cody was found in the fetal position, barely in the house.
And evidence
that doesn't even make sense.
Evidence showed you didn't even hesitate before you shot your brother in the face.
What a piece of shit.
Your own flesh and blood.
What a piece of shit.
Shot him in the face. Like,
wow.
You're disgusting.
Truly.
Because it's one thing to steal money from people when you're going through addiction. Like, that's not okay, but I understand you're suffering. It's a very different thing to shoot people in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I would say so.
That's
holy shit.
On another level.
Yeah. Piece of shit.
So the detectives were like, yeah, no, like,
straight up monster.
No, that doesn't work like that. So then he admitted, I know I have all the motives. I have all the means to carry out this murder, but I didn't do it. Like, I know it looks that way, but I didn't do it. So the detectives were like, if it's not you, then who would have done this?
Like,
and he
prove
said
that it's not you, too.
Right. He said, I don't know. I've been getting blamed for the last half a year for everything, and I've been trying to move forward in a positive direction. And then every day I'm reminded of all the trouble I caused. And then I keep being told the same thing over and over again, that there's nothing I can do to change it.
How old is he again?
Like 30. Like in his 30s.
Okay, so
point.
he's not 6?
No.
Okay,
no.
just checking.
He's not.
Because, like, really? Really?
Like, every day I keep hearing the same stuff.
Because I steal money from them. It's like, what the...
It's like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, people are pissed.
Now you're talking about your dead family, by the way. Like, if you
blaming
really...
it on your brother who did everything for you. That is so... The fact that he was so willing to turn around and be like, probably Cody.
It's like so crazy to me.
Holy shit, dude. You are like bottom of the barrel piece of shit.
Legit.
Like, you couldn't even say some stranger came in there. You blamed Cody?
Right.
What the fuck?
Like, that is fucked.
What a coward.
On another level. But at the same time, detectives felt like they were super close to getting a confession because they're poking.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, we're going to get there. So what they did was they ended up contacting his older brother, Jason. And they were like, well, why don't we get the two of you in a room together? And you confront him. I know. So Jason goes in the room and immediately asks Grant whether he had anything to do with it. And Grant said, no, I have nothing to do with it. And Grant told him, Jason told him, I want to believe you, Grant, but you're the last person I can put in that house. And I know what happened over the last 6 months. I can understand that that trouble that you've been going through, but it's hard for me to think you would break to this point.
Yeah.
So they had a 15-minute conversation as detectives watched, and they could tell it was clear that Jason didn't believe Grant's denial either.
No.
And it became particularly evident when he wondered out loud what would have happened had he been in the house at the time of the murders.
Oh.
He said, I may not have been able to stop you. You probably may have hurt me too, but at least I would have known what happened.
Oh.
And he kept going, just trying to get Grant to confess. He said they didn't deserve it. No matter what feelings were felt by anybody, they were good people.
Yeah.
And just when they thought Grant was going to budge, he said, I know. And they showed it by protecting me.
Wow.
It's like, so now you were home?
Wow.
And they protected you and you're the sole survivor?
Like, what the fuck?
What?
And it's like, is he talking about that, or is he talking about protected him throughout this whole ordeal?
I don't even know.
Either way, it's like, wow, you're a fucking monster that you're acknowledging that.
Right.
Like, wow.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
So while all of that was going on down at the sheriff's office, crime scene technicians began a thorough search of the house, Grant's car, and the hotel room that he'd been staying at in Orlando at the DoubleTree. Now, in the search of his car, crime scene analyst Eric Brothers found a handwritten letter that detailed all the issues that had been going on in the family for the last 6 months. And it included a quote saying, I said I'd take care of all your problems at the house, and I have. No one will bother you again regarding this. Just please come home.
What the hell was that?
So, back in the interview room, like, detectives heard about this, and they asked Grant about the letter. Okay. And he said he was the one that had written it. He was like, yeah, that's mine. And the quote was something Cody said to him the night that he was kicked out of the house.
Huh.
And they were like, why would you write a letter in first person as Cody? And he said he was just trying to document their conversation. But like, if I was just trying to document that conversation, I'd be like, and then Elena said,
No.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make sense.
So meanwhile, analysts combing through the evidence at the DoubleTree found several credit cards. After he murdered his family, he stole their credit cards. They found multiple belonging to Cody, Chad.
That checks a lot.
And a later search of the Amato house would turn up even more credit cards and also images showing the credit card information that Grant had stolen from his aunt and uncle. Based on the, quote, totality of the investigation, an arrest warrant was issued and Grant was officially taken into custody. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree premeditated murder for the deaths of Cody, Chad, and Margaret.
Wow.
So on March 27th, 2019, there was a bond hearing to determine whether he should be eligible for bond, which is wild.
Yeah.
His lawyer, Jeff Dowdy, argued that there was no physical evidence tying Grant to the murders because he lives in the house.
I was going to say.
Like, of course not.
Yeah.
And he should be allowed bond in order to prepare for the trial. But during the hearing, the prosecutor played the 16-minute conversation between Jason and Grant during his initial interview. And that was followed up by testimony from Jason, who was able to detail all the issues that had been going on in the home. And in his closing arguments, the prosecutor, Stuart Stone, said, "Everything points to the defendant in this case and no one else. No one else had any issues or problems with the victims." And even though there was a lack of forensic evidence linking Grant to the crime scene, but that's because he lived there. Like, it's hard to say what's evidence and what's not.
There's a lack of forensic evidence linking anyone to the crime scene.
Exactly.
That's the problem here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even though there was that, the judge actually denied the request for bond.
Oh, okay.
And Grant was returned back to his cell. Bye, bitch.
Bye.
But the issue of bond was revisited again in late April, and the defense attorney pointed again to the lack of forensic evidence, blah, blah, blah. And the judge actually ended up siding with him because still at this point, there was a lack of proof coming from the prosecution side. So he granted a $750,000 bail.
Damn.
Which Grant would need to pay 10% of.
Yeah, he's not gonna.
No. And it came, of course, with additional requirements. Grant, if he was to be out on bond, would have to wear a GPS ankle monitor, avoid contact with any witnesses in the case, and avoid the internet altogether, which we all know would not have happened.
No.
So even though he was in jail and strictly forbidden from using the internet, meaning he had no way of keeping in contact with Sylvie, he was committed to his belief that she was in fact his girlfriend. Jeez. In a handwritten letter to the girlfriend of his cellmate, Grant explained that he and his cellmate had bonded over their shared interests and work histories. He said to the woman, "I know the pain of being separated from the woman you love."
My God, you've always been separated from the woman you love.
Literally always. And then he went on to tell her that he and Sylvie had plans to take a cruise, quote, "once all this jail stuff is behind us."
Once all this jail stuff is behind us.
BB, you murdered your entire family, and even if you're still claiming innocence that you didn't, your entire family was murdered.
Thank you. That was going to be my next thing. It's like, even if you're going to keep claiming that you had nothing to do with this,
that's not something you're going to put behind you.
That your whole family was brutally slain in their house.
In the house that you plan to live in with your brother that was curled up in the fetal position in the garage or in the storage room next to the garage.
None of this is bothering you at all?
No, he's just going to go on a cruise with Sylvie.
Cool. Very
I'm
cool.
also like, did Sylvie know that?
Yeah.
Did Sylvie know that you guys were going on a cruise? Because I don't think so.
That's what does Sylvie know?
She knew that he became obsessed with her, and she was just like, it wasn't that for me. It was work.
Yeah.
Like, there was no relationship.
No.
He was just under the impression.
Scary.
I think she must have been terrified.
Yeah.
So it's honestly unclear why Grant was writing long, detailed letters to his cellmate's girlfriend.
Yeah, I was going to ask that next.
Yeah, I don't really know. but sure. Most of his other correspondence made sense under the circumstances. He was clearly unable to come up with the $75,000 bond, so he tried to access the payout from his parents' life insurance policies.
Fuck that. Are you kidding me?
But, he was informed that his indictment for their murder happened to make him ineligible for that money.
So, there's this little thing standing in your way.
Tiny rule of, if you're the one on trial for the murder, you actually don't get the money.
You actually don't get that.
It's crazy.
I know, it's wild.
Sorry.
Very unfair.
Sorry about that.
But speaking of unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know all about that, Grant.
For sure.
But anyway, the conditions of his bail made it so that he couldn't use any funds from his parents' estate anyway to make bond. So instead, he began reaching out to news outlets, offering, quote, trade exclusive interviews to reporters in exchange for getting money to bond out of jail.
Wow.
So he's like, yeah, I'll talk to you about my parents' money totally so I can get out of here. In an email to a reporter in New York, he complained about his inability to come up with the money, saying, "It seems to be my half-brother's mission to make my life that much harder by not believing me, communicating me, or even helping me, even after I was blessed with a very high bond."
Wow.
You think it's fucking Jason's responsibility to bond you out of here? You murdered his mother, his adoptive father, and his half-brother.
He's so delusional.
He is. His other message to journalists were very similar in tone, and they usually contained a list of repetitive complaints about everything from his experiences in jail. He would write about his interest in Japanese culture, and then he would start complaining again about the lack of support outside of jail and his quote-unquote elitist neighbors back home. He called them elitist.
What?
I'm like, I don't think they're judging you because, like, you don't have money.
Yeah,
I think they're judging you because you murdered your whole family in cold blood.
You murdered their neighbor.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the judgment.
I don't think it's elitist.
No, I wouldn't say it was.
Now, despite his quote-unquote efforts, Grant was never able to come up with the money, and he remained in jail awaiting trial. But as he was trying his hardest, the Seminole County investigators continued collecting and analyzing a seemingly endless amount of evidence actually coming from the car and from the house. The more prominent evidence included hundreds and hundreds of images and screenshots of Sylvie. There were text conversations between the two, and there were screenshots of the bank transactions showing proof of his countless purchases of those tokens that he could use on the Camgirl website. So, his trial for the murder of his parents and his brother finally began on July 15th in the Seminole County Circuit Court. Stuart Stone was arguing for the prosecution, and again, Jeff Dowdy was leading Grant's defense team. So in his opening statement, Stone laid out the prosecution's theory that Grant had been faced with the ultimatum of giving up his fantasy relationship with Sylvie or losing the support of his family. So he chose to continue that relationship with Sylvie and also chose to murder his parents and brother.
Awesome.
Thinking that with them out of the way, he would be free to continue on in his relationship and live off of their money.
Yep.
Now, the prosecution pointed to the fact that just a few hours after killing his family, Grant logged on to the Wi-Fi at Publix and tried to connect with Sylvie.
My God.
A few hours.
This is so beyond obsession.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Like, wow.
So the prosecution told the jury, quote, his parents' and brother's bodies aren't even cold, and he's already reestablishing or trying to reestablish contact with Sylvie.
Yep.
He was just waiting for her to say, I love you too. Come to Bulgaria. Come see me. But that didn't happen.
Oh my God.
Because this is her job. It's not, she's not in love with you. She's not in love with
the thing.
No.
Like this is literally her job.
Right.
That's it.
So throughout the trial, it went on for 2 weeks. The jury was presented with the, by then, well-known story of Grant's full-blown obsession with Sylvie, his theft of more than, at that point, $200,000 from his family, and the incredibly tense relationship that had developed between him and specifically his father as a result. But the more damning evidence actually came from the murder weapon. It was in, I hope I got this right, IWI Jericho 941 pistol that belonged to his best friend, Blake Turpin.
Wow.
So Turpin was called to testify, and he told the jury that he realized his gun was missing from his home about a month or two earlier and remembered leaving Grant in his bedroom where the gun was kept, quote, for about 10 minutes 2 weeks prior to the killings.
Oh, damn.
So he not only stole a shit ton of money from his family, stole their belongings, but he stole from his best friend to kill his family.
I was going to say, and then use that thing to murder his entire family so that it would be traced back to his best friend.
Wild.
And was willing to say that it was Cody who did everything.
Yep.
Like, he will throw anybody under the bus.
Anybody. So on July 31st, 2019, after more than 8 hours of deliberation, which I truly can't even believe it took that long, the jury unanimously delivered a guilty verdict.
Good.
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Bye.
In all 3 charges of first-degree premeditated murder.
Yep.
And the penalty phase of the trial took place on August 12th. And it was particularly important because actually Grant was potentially facing the death penalty for these murders.
Oh, damn.
But during that part of the trial, Jason Amato testified and told the judge, it's so hard to go through the grieving process when there are multiple losses and uncertainty in the future.
I can't fathom that.
Through all this, though, I'm a proud Amato, and I will rise up smarter and stronger than before. And ultimately, the judge sentenced Grant Amato to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Bye, Grant.
The end.
Bye, Grant.
Fucking
holy
wild.
Wow. I am like without words for that.
Wild.
I didn't know that story.
I can't believe I'm
I have
very
never
surprised
heard
about
that story.
I have to tell you, and I have to give credit where credit is due. I actually learned of this case from Bailey Sarian.
Oh, shit.
It was one of the first videos I ever watched of hers.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, like years ago.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, I love Bailey.
I love Bailey so much.
The sweetest human.
It's like truly. So if you want any more information on this case, I would definitely
see
suggest going to Bailey's channel and watching that.
Oh, man. You know what it is? It's the name sounded familiar.
Yeah.
But I did not know this.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
And crazy that it really wasn't that long ago.
It's so sad.
I know.
It's such a sad case. Like that at the end, you're like, bye, Grant, see you later. But then you're like, fuck.
Oh, but like everyone
and it's like,
is
I feel
gone.
so bad for Jason, like having, like what he said, going through the grieving process with this as part of it. You can't even.
You're grieving your entire family and grieving the loss of your brother too, your remaining brother who did all of this.
Of course, it's so upsetting.
And I can't imagine, I would just never trust anybody ever again.
No, honestly, you shouldn't.
No, I mean, I don't anyways, but.
Wow. What a story.
Sad.
Well told.
Thank you. Shout out to Dave for helping me with the research.
David.
The most beautiful, beautiful being.
A majestic unicorn.
Him. So yeah, guys, we thank you for listening and we hope you keep listening and we hope you
keep
it weird, but not so weird that any of this.
Yeah.
Love
None
you.
of it.
None of
Not
it.
even one part of it.
Except like shop at Publix because I heard it's a great grocery store.
Definitely do that.
All right, love you. Bye.